Good day. It is June of 2022, and this year is continuing to get crazier and crazier. Politics, ladies and gentlemen, does not leave one alone. You might not be interested in it, but it is most assuredly interested in you. I think 2020 kind of proved that with all the lockdown insanity. No one ever thought something like that could actually happen, but it did. It's one of those things that's kind of interesting to me, is that the awakening of the normie is something that's been going on for some time. I believe the whole Great Awakening actually started way back in 2014, which is kind of prophetic when you think about it. Our World War I started with Gamergate. Now, when 2014 rolled around, I had no idea that Gamergate was even going on. I'd heard some allusions to some big thing, but I didn't know what it was. But I think in 2014, that's when the real political polarization, there we go, try saying that multiple times fast, really started to kick off in a way that I don't think had really been seen before. You know, where now everything became political, especially on Twitter and all the rest, you know, where everything had some sort of political connotation. And it has slowly filtered over the last 8 years into like everything, and gaming and all the rest, where you can't just have a game. You have to have some sort of message. Although messages in games had started to be fairly common starting back, I guess, around 2010 or so. But ultimately, 2014 is where a lot of that shit show really blew up. Now, as far as I know, the whole Gamergate thing was somebody was giving out sexual favors for positive reviews on some sort of game. At least that's as far as I know what actually happened. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter. Whatever it was kind of like the 2014 equivalent to the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. It's like, whatever it did, it blew up everything that I think had been slowly bubbling beneath the surface, and finally, boom. Now, everything's just insane. And it's just gotten worse and worse over time. And now that's where you've got all your little outrage merchants and stuff like that talking about, this movie's woke, that movie's woke. It's really quite a fascinating thing to see as time goes on. Because really, prior to that point, I don't think too many people really cared. But now, the political connotations are so bad that certain reviewers are saying that Stargate, you know, Colonel O'Neill and Daniel Jackson, that they're apparently racist because the implication that aliens helped create the pyramids or create the pyramids as landing pads for motherships somehow denigrates the actual people who built them, even though Stargate takes place in a fictional universe, but whatever. The insanity is real. One of the things I do like to always point out when it comes to politics is don't join these goddamn groups. They're led by the dumbest people imaginable or the most sociopathic people imaginable. They want your money. They want influence by using you. They don't really care about you or anything they profess to care about. And so, with that in mind, just have a flexible mind, you know, study what's actually going on, understand what's actually happening instead of just knee-jerking off and screaming about it on whatever you might scream about it on. It's just one of those things. There's been a number of Supreme Court rulings that have made people go positively apoplectic, even though when you actually look at what happens, it's not going to change nearly as much as people say it is. And a lot of the bad takes are rather interesting. Now, one good Supreme Court case was getting rid of the shall issue CCW license. A number of these blue shitholes, let's say, had it to be where their concealed carry weapons licenses were almost impossible to get unless you were well connected with the political machines that run those states. Now, they have to actually issue the goddamn CCWs. What's really funny about those licenses, though, you have criminals going around, you know, pushing people in front of subways, stabbing people, beating people, and stuff like that. They don't need a license for that. But if you want to defend yourself, you got to jump through 18 different hoops. But whatever. What do I know? I'm just some jumped up provincial from Texas. So when it comes to politics, ladies and gentlemen, just study. What we have here today, ladies and gentlemen, is cosplay. This is a DC-17 blaster pistol, an excellently well done 3D model. Not 3D model, but 3D printed model. I absolutely adore 3D printing. This is actually going to be used with my Mandalorian cosplay. I decided to get rid of I didn't get rid of it, but I decided to change out the Mando blaster for the DC-17 pistol. Now, the DC-17 is a lot like the M1. You've got the DC-17 multi-weapon system, which is used by Republic Commandos. You've got a DC-17 sidearm blaster, and then you got this, which is another type of sidearm. It's like, seriously. But I absolutely adore this little thing. It's oversized for what it is, but look at the size of that barrel. But I think that's what a Mando would carry. That thing didn't even need any painting. Then, of course, we've got this. A jetpack. Oh my god. I'm actually quite pleased how this thing turned out. For the Mando costume, I decided to modify it with a back plate, a jetpack, and... Actually, that's it. And a neck piece, which has not arrived yet as of this recording. All of which were unpainted. I actually had to do the painting for this. And what this is, ladies and gentlemen, is this is black spray paint impregnated, oh dear, with graphite powder. And then I spray a clear coat over it. And it just looks so very awesome. I'm quite pleased with it. Now, this is apparently a jetpack scene in Rebels. I've never actually watched Rebels because to me it's completely non-canon, but whoever uses it is awesome because it's a very nice design. It's different from the traditional Boba Fett or Jango Fett jetpacks, so I'm glad to add that to my costume. And of course I'm going to be cosplaying as my Mega Mandalorian in the middle of July, but I'm excited nonetheless. I decided to ditch the cape because capes are okay, but I also decided to ditch the little blue. Actually, it's dark gray. It looks blue to me. I'm not colorblind. It's just for some reason I associate different colors with something else. But whatever. The blue little leather armor. Got rid of that because it just looked kind of cheap. So with all that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, cosplay is a very fun hobby to get into. You kind of have to look at all the details of what goes into armor. And I've enjoyed just looking at all the different ways Mandalorian armor can be created, what's here, what's there. It allows you to see things in a very different light, and it's a lot of fun to me. So, on the subject of videos, just put out Outward a day ago. It got sufficiently popular in such a short period of time. It is definitely a really good RPG, one of which I recommend just as much as I recommended in the review. Finding a good RPG just is not difficult. It just is not an easy prospect. Just is not difficult. Pfft. Not only is that bad English, it's not true. Finding a good RPG is next to impossible these days. Unless, of course, it's some sort of top-down thing, which I personally don't like. The next review is going to be on Halo 2. Just finished up that live stream a couple days ago as of this recording. I'm not going to be putting out that review in July because I'm going to be far too busy working on studying for my A+ certification in August. But in August, I should have time to start and finish that video. So, there's that to look forward to. After Halo 2, I'm not going to have a lot of other stuff to do, so I'm going to be getting out 4 more reviews. Medal of Honor Allied Assault, that's a re-review. I did the original way back in 2010. Ugh, where does the time go? I'm also going to do a re-review of... Actually, 3 more reviews, I should say. I'm also going to do a re-review of AVP2, which I did... back in 2009. Oh dear. It'll happen to you. I was 20 years old when I made that review. Here's the scary part. There was less time between 2009 and 2001 than there is between 2001 and 2022. And last but certainly not least, it's another re-review of Batman Arkham Asylum. It's a review that's kind of funny, though, because I would be dressed up as Batman, but that's not the funny part. The funny part is, every complaint I had back in 2009 when I first did that review, Arkham City fixed. I actually ended up taking that review down because I got so many negative comments on it. But, you know, I must have been right, because they changed everything that I hated about that game for Arkham City. So, I must have been right? As for live streams, I'm going to be finishing... Actually, I'm going to be starting... I'm not sure if I'm going to do that many episodes. Might just be 1 or 2 of Aliens, Colonial Marines. Going to try to do a whole fan appreciation thing for that. Going to get on Discord, have some people join in. I think Colonial Marines is co-op. Unfortunately, for anyone who has to play that with me. Colonial Marines. I haven't thought about that game since 2013. Actually, it's almost a decade ago, and that game is still terrible. and I'm sure it'll be even worse playing it now. I'm going to be playing the PC version, not going to be getting the improvement mod. I want to play it as it was released, so no one gets any wrong ideas about it. It's just one of those games that I couldn't wait to play, and it's actually kind of funny. As you get older, ladies and gentlemen, time doesn't seem quite like it used to. Like, the time between 2008, when Colonial Marines was first announced, and 2012, when it was released, really wasn't that long, but it felt like an absolute eternity, whereas 2012 to 2022 didn't feel like it was that bad. So, on to movies, games, and books. So, recently I did see Lightyear, which apparently flopped horribly at the box office. Not too surprising. It's a pretty god-awful movie. It's your traditional Disney, I wouldn't even say schlock. Schlock can be good. It's your traditional Disney focus group to hell and gone crap. The biggest problem, and I don't care if anybody gets annoyed at this spoiler, Buzz Lightyear is the villain. He instigates the plot, and he is somebody who tries to take over the human colony. Yes, they did that. Again. Disney loves to tear down legacy characters so that their new characters can look better in comparison. They did that to Luke Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi's, and among others, and Master Chief, although that was Paramount. They're trying to tear down all these characters, and they tear down Buzz Lightyear. Originally, Buzz Lightyear was meant to be, a prodigy kind of character. Well, in the movie, he was a fuck-up during training, and it required his spunky sidekick to pull him through. The whole kiss thing controversy, that's really it's a non-controversy to me. It lasts about 2 seconds and is over and done with in the first 20 minutes of the movie. I'm not sure how much the trailers spoil, but, well, since I just told you that Buzz Lightyear is the surprise villain, that character actually dies within the first 20 minutes of the movie. So it literally has no bearing on the actual plot. The big issue with Buzz Lightyear is he's made to be kind of like an asshole, but also to be kind of worthless on his own, which is just, if you're a fan of Buzz Lightyear, and I am, the fact that all these reviewers constantly went on about that kiss goes to show you that they're just as big a political hacks as the other side, because there's so much more to complain about the movie. And I actually saw the goddamn thing. I actually sat through it. I'm never going to get that time back. I said don't waste your life, but I was wasting my life there watching that thing. And of course they have the little subversions, like Buzz gets like a sandwich out of the out of a vending machine, and the meat is the bread. It's like, what? Ha ha ha, I guess. His ragtag bunch of misfits is really stupid, as per usual. And the worst part about it, though, is Lightyear, despite having Lightyear's more budget, is substantially worse than the Buzz Lightyear of Star Command TV show from the early 2000s. Buzz Lightyear Star Command was made to capitalize on the popularity of Toy Story 2. Buzz Lightyear Star Command actually doesn't follow any of the same plot beats. Buzz Lightyear starts out as like this superhero dude. His partner turns against him, and then he gets a ragtag bunch of misfits that are actually competent. One of which is a blue-skinned princess that is actually almost as good as Buzz Lightyear. Then you got a robot created by the little green dudes, and he's kind of crazy, wisecracking, stuff like that, but he's actually competent. Then you've got a giant orange guy who's super strong. Much better than a inmate, a fuck-up, and the granddaughter of Buzz Lightyear's mentor, because Buzz Lightyear had a mentor, because of course he did. It's just, when you go for diversity, they're definitely not going for diversity of thought, because it's all humans in Lightyear, whereas in Buzz Lightyear Star Command, you've got a bunch of aliens flying around. Much better show. Buzz Lightyear Star Command did not have Tim Allen as the voice. Instead, it had the guy who voices, I believe, Joe from Family Guy. I can't remember his name at the moment. Who does, I think, an even better job at being Buzz Lightyear than Tim Allen. I know that might seem heretical, but I really like how he plays that character. And it's got Wayne fucking Knight, as Zurg. And he does awesome in it. So yeah, Lightyear is just a pale imitation of Buzz Lightyear Star Command. Lightyear actually inspired me to watch Toy Story 2 as well. I never was a fan of the Toy Story movies. I am old enough to have actually seen the original Toy Story in theaters, and I found it to be one of the more boring and generic Disney movies, even though I was less than 10 years old when I saw it. I was a much bigger fan of Pokemon, the first movie, and yes, I saw that goddamn movie. Yes, I waited in line, and yes, that movie is shit. But if you were a kid in the 90s, it was like the greatest thing ever. I feel bad for my grandfather sitting through that. Because if you didn't watch the show, you were fucked. That movie explained nothing, and had... even if you did watch the show, half the time you couldn't tell what was going on in that goddamn movie. But anyway, Toy Story 2, in my opinion, was a lot better, even if it did get a little weird, like... The toy's life is to bring happiness to children. It's like, whoa, calm down there, Tom. I'm just saying, I heard some things about Tom Hanks. Allegedly. Just comes off kind of creepy, even if it didn't hear anything. Whereas the Buzz Lightyear character is just much more entertaining. So with that in mind, I also ended up watching Mystery Men from 1999. It's a fairly, sadly, obscure superhero spoof film. One of the best, if not the best, to date. The Mystery Men is a movie that could only have been made in the 90s, even though it was at the very tail end of the 90s. The only thing that really famous about that movie is All-Star, the classic Shrek song came out of that movie. But Mystery Men, I think, does the superhero parody better than something like The Boys is not meant to be a superhero parody, but it's meant to be a deconstruction, whereas Mystery Men is also deconstruction / parody. But for me, Mystery Men likes superheroes. There was a concentrated thing in the early 2000s / late 90s where some of these writers were saying superheroes are evil, terrible, and stuff like that, which I don't think is particularly fair. The superhero genre as a whole is meant to be fun. I'm not going to say escapism because that's kind of insulting, but it's meant to be fun. You know, the idea is that Superman could be good. Batman could be good. You know, saying like, oh, they'll be terrible. It's like, well, you don't really know that. Well, Mystery Men basically posits that Superman is perhaps not evil, but very venal, he wants glory. The Superman equivalent is named Captain Amazing. He's kind of sold out and is like corporately sponsored, but he's so good at being a superhero that he basically has arrested or killed all the villains. And so he wants to spring a villain named Casanova Frankenstein. And there's a scene between the two characters where Captain Amazing is still a competent superhero, even if he does act kind of like a doofus, which I think is really good. Because one of the things these parodies and deconstructions do is they make the superheroes really, really dumb. I know the Boys TV show kind of makes the Homelander not that dumb, but still, they always make him really stupid. Whereas Captain Amazing, you can see that he was at least at one time a good superhero. And so it's sort of like the fallen hero that is brought down by time. Not necessarily a villain, although he does want to side with the villain at some point in the film, but he's not necessarily a villain. It's sort of like the fallen celebrity or sports star sort of thing, which I think is better than him just being evil. So the titular Mystery Men are a bunch of wannabe superheroes. You've got the Shoveler, the Blue Raja, who doesn't actually have any blue on him, and Mr. Furious, played by Ben Stiller. Now, Ben Stiller might be an idiot in real life, but the Mr. Furious character is really hilarious. The comedic timing is really good on that. There's also a few other characters like the Bowler, played by, I think, Janine Garofalo, who is now apparently androgynous or something. Then there's Paul Rubens as the Spleen, who weaponizes flatulence to literally knock people out. And there's a few other characters as well, but that's the main ones. It is really fucking funny. Like, it actually... The thing about it that makes it so good is it actually likes superheroes. There's deconstructions and there's parodies, but it still plays a lot of the superheroics fairly straight. And the thing I like about the movie is it kind of subverts the expectations, but in a good way. You have all these kind of screw-up superheroes, and throughout the movie, they grow as characters, and at the very end, with the climactic final battle, they fight. And they actually succeed. And so, in a modern day parody, they'd either all die or something. There's one scene at the very end. This is a spoiler, but one of my favorite scenes at the end. Mr. Furious, the Ben Stiller character, is played as a complete moron throughout the entire movie. And at the final act, he's facing off against Casanova Frankenstein. And throughout the movie, it's like, does he actually have superpowers? Because he's supposed to be powered by his unbridled rage, which he never gets. But at the very end, he actually does get super strength and beats the crap out of Casanova Frankenstein. See, that's the subversion. That'd be a subversion now. Because today, what would happen is he'd fail, and then, the corporate appointed hero would defeat the villain. Instead, back in the 90s, you could have the screw-up actually be the hero, which is much more of a uplifting kind of ending. So yeah, Mystery Men, if you haven't seen it, watch it. It's great. It is one of my Alpha Prime films, and it's way up there. Like, just way up there. Off camera, it's that high. Well, it's probably made on drugs anyway. But anyway, let's see. Any other films? That's really just the main ones I wanted to talk about. So, books. Did a reread of Republic Commando, Book 1, Hard Contact. Got a review of that up there. And Hard Contact is still as good as it ever was. In fact, I've got to say, I enjoy Hard Contact more now than I did when it came out. Because when it came out, I wanted to see Delta Squad, not these new guys. But now, coming back at it after, almost 20 years of reading that book, I got to say, Omega Squad is pretty compelling. The writing is really good, and I like the fact it's one of those things where I'm almost enjoying it more because of, modern day crap. Because there's a villain in Republic Commando named Gez Hoken. He's an evil Mandalorian, because not all Mandalorians are the same. And at the end of the book, he's actually a legitimate boss fight for the Republic Commandos. And it requires a lot of quick thinking and subversive tactics to finally take him down. Obviously, they win because there's like 6 more books in the series. That's not a spoiler, but it's like, today he'd just get shot and dead, which would be really boring. Also did a reread of Star Trek Federation, and holy crap, is that a damn good book. Star Trek at least is seeing a bit of a revival now with Strange New Worlds, and Strange New Worlds has actually been consistently good pretty much the entire time. So good, in fact, I had to pick up this model. I think I've already shown this, but I'm going to show it off again. Eagle Moss Models does a really damn good job. Look at that. And this was less than like $40. It came with a really nice stand and everything. But Star Trek Federation has a completely different continuity from every other Star Trek series and is better for it. Zefram Cochrane, instead of being a vegan, actually is a scientist. And warp drive isn't just invented in a shed with a box of scraps. Instead, it requires concentrated scientific development in the space future of Star Trek. Because the 2060s in that book is way more advanced. Like, they've got inertial dampening in like 2065. They've got impulse engines in like 2060. It's crazy. There's a colony on the moon of Titan. It's one of those things where I don't think we're going to have all that. And the warp drive isn't called the warp drive. Instead, it's called the super impeller. And Zefram Cochrane flies the, I think it's the Bellerophon. No, the Bonaventure. Flies his ship, the Bonaventure, not the Phoenix, to Alpha Centauri by himself. And it takes 240 days because Warp 1 is really, really slow. Actually, I think it's probably faster than Warp 1 because I think Warp 1 is actually just light speed. And if it was going that, it would still take 4 years. But whatever. And he's an actual scientist instead of a guy who just wanted to make money. So, yes, Star Trek First Contact is kind of crap in comparison. Like, really crap, but I ain't taking down that bloody, I'm not taking down that bloody poster. It's a really good narrative because you have 3 different stories going on. You've got a story taking place in the original series timeline. You've got a story taking place in TNG, and interwoven through that is Zefram Cochrane himself. If you haven't read it, read it. I already got a review of it from like ages ago. Still worth reading. Also, I'm doing a reread as we speak, ladies and gentlemen, of the Cole Protocol, Halo the Cole Protocol. I bought that book when it came out, and it's way better than I remember too. And at that time in the Halo timeline, this takes place shortly before, actually it takes place a number of years before Halo 1. It's got Thel in it, old Thel Vetums, and he is an asshole back then. So there's the 3 main novels that I've read for the month. As for games, trying to find a good game is not easy, like, at all. The only game I can really recommend so much as looking at is a indie game called Hellpoint. It's got a really good art style. It is essentially a cosmic horror, cyberpunk sort of thing. It's Dark Souls, but Dark Souls, with a nice hint of Elden Ring added to it where you can jump around. The art style is probably the best thing it's got going for it. The combat is okay. The levels are just a little too short and you get to bosses a little too fast. But if you need a Dark Souls fix, I'd recommend taking a look at that. So, with all that aside, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to wish you good, Strange New Worlds, and let's try not to destroy the model, and good, Orville, it finally got good in the 4th episode. Whatever makes you happy.